FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz, and today is December 20th, and we're taking a breather for next week, but we'll still have shows on. Promise you that. Probably one per day. Maybe leave one off for the holiday. But things are so busy, and we were in Nevada, Bill Powers and I, and a group of people, a couple of months back. And we were viewing the Silver One project there in Candelaria. It's known as Candelaria. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere in Nevada, and that's probably a good thing. And it really was an amazing experience to think this one project has been owned by a number of different parties. There's just amazing amounts of silver still there, from the leach pads to a number of areas that haven't even been drilled yet. The drilling is going on. The drills are turning. Hey, in the interest of full disclosure, I have to say that I've been a shareholder of Silver One for a number of years now. I'm considering upping my holdings at some point in the near future because I'm convinced that silver is going to make a move, and a major move at some point, but that's me. But we're really, really fortunate to have Greg Crowe with us. And as you probably know, Greg is president and CEO of Silver One. He left a very comfortable retirement because you were so excited by this project, Greg. And your excitement, your enthusiasm really is quite contagious. I mean, I invested. I don't do that all that often. But seeing the project there, getting the overhead, literally the above ground view of what was taking place there, it was really amazing. And it's not like the work stopped after I left. You've been busy both with Candelaria and with Cherokee. So tell us what's going on in Candelaria.
Okay, Kerry. Well, since you were on Candelaria, I guess when you were there, we were just starting to prepare some of the drill pads do the drilling. Just put it into context for those who may not know, Candelaria is the past producing silver asset in Nevada that was officially the highest grade producing silver deposit in the state of Nevada prior to it going into open pit mining in the 1970s, 80s, and 90s. The last operator was Kinross Gold, actually, and all told, they produced about 68 million tons, but they left behind quite a bit of silver. So why did Kinross shut it down? Because of a big economic downturn in the global economies in the late 90s, collapse of the Asian tiger countries, and a collapse of commodity prices and precious metal prices. Silver actually went down to about $2.50 per ounce silver. So they shut it down, and then they sold it to Silver Standard. Silver Standard came in 2001, did a big drill program, and they outlined sizable new resources. But with silver prices so low, they looked at putting it back in production and decided to forget about it. Silver Standard went on to acquire other assets and take a different tack. We approached them in 2016 after I came out of retirement and started Silver One, and they were amenable to doing a deal on this project because they were concentrating on gold, and they ended up changing their name from Silver Standard to SSR Mining. But as a result, they were selling off all these old silver assets. We acquired this. So what did we get when we acquired it? Well, first of all, when they did their drill program, they outlined then 4310 compliant resources, now historic, 44 million ounces of silver at the measured and indicated, just on the northern margin of one of the big open pits, and another 82 million ounces inferred. Of that, 48 million still sits in the old heap leach pads that was mined material just sitting on surface, and they just turned off the tap and walked away. So there's 48 million ounces just sitting there. So we're doing a couple of things. First of all, we're doing some metallurgical testing to see if we can bring these heaps back into production in an earlier scenario than we would by reopening the pits or doing some underground mining. But also importantly is we're doing exploration and pre-development work in the sense that we've got a drill turning there. And we're on drill hole number 4 since you visited the project a couple of months ago. And we've got the stuff into the lab. We expect assays to start trickling out here probably early in the new year. And then, so we're probably going to do upwards around 8 to 10 holes all told on this round of drilling. The goal is to first and foremost update the 43-101 historic resource to current. That's very important with respect to financial institutions taking an interest in this project and everything. They want to see a current 43-101. The other thing we're doing is we're testing down dip high grade intercepts that were encountered in the silver standard drilling. And some of those intercepts were not even included in the resource calculation. One intercept, for instance, was over 14 meters of 670 grams per ton silver. That's a lot of silver in these mines. A lot of the classic underground mines that are currently in production in Mexico are producing between 200 and 400 grams per ton silver. The highest grade one that I know is mag silver, and they're in the 700 gram per ton, which is very similar to these intercepts that we were getting, or Silver Standard was getting back in 2001. So we're going to test that zone. Is there a coherent underground body that's much, much higher grade? And then, of course, we're going to look at just a long strike from the open pit and see whether we can expand on those already sizable resources that were outlined by Silver Standard.
Hey, one thing you mentioned to us when we were there is that you managed to get the original engineering firm that did the prior 43-101. So that makes your task of updating it, bringing it current, much easier, doesn't it?
It makes it easier and also more timely. And the reason mainly for that is that this individual already has all the historic data, all the drill results from the first 43-101 report that was done in 2001, all the old Kinross drill data, etc. He's got it all on his computer and he's familiar with it. So there's not that, shall we say, several month time lag to bring a new engineer up to speed and get comfortable. So we have to drill, a couple of confirmatory holes, and then he's going to be comfortable with putting his stamp on a new updated 43-101. So we're quite excited about that.
Yeah, you don't have the learning curve involved, and the information will be much faster, and there'll be a cost savings as well, I presume. So Yep. You're on track.
We are on track. So hopefully in Q1, if everything goes according to schedule, you'll see an updated 43-101 coming out from us. That's what we're aiming for. Might have to push that back into early Q2, but that's what we're aiming for is Q1.
Excellent.
The other thing we did at Candelaria, which is important, is we acquired some new ground. There was a big swath of ground just to the north and west of the two big open pits. That came open, and we staked it. Now, why did we do that? Well, there was an old government geophysical magnetometer survey that said there was a big anomaly that not only went on that ground, but extended eastwards and draped over the northern margin of the two big oak pits, suggesting there could be connectivity between the open pits and mineralization off to the west. Now, we see also a lot of old historic workings off to the west, and Kinross actually started a new pit before they shut down out there called the Jardine Pit. So we know there's mineralization there. So we did an airborne geophysical survey over that new area and also the area around the pits as well. And we not only confirmed, but we have much more details on that big magnetometer anomaly. And that's going to be a target for exploration coming up in 2020. We want to do some confirmatory IP or induced polarization surveys because we feel there could be some opportunity there for some underground copper-silver mineralization that we're seeing in some of the old adit dumps and whatnot in that area. So, that would completely expand and revamp the whole idea of what's Candelaria, because originally people just targeted the oxide silver, which is very high grade and very profitable, but there could be a much more sizable system at depth that we want to test for.
Yeah, that is pretty exciting. And, the one thing that impressed me when we were looking at the project was the scale of it, and that the silver keeps running out in different directions, the veins, and that you could be looking at a district at some point in time.
It's definitely much bigger than what they concentrated on. What's interesting is the old timers back in the late 1800s up to the mid 1900s, they had little workings all over the hills, and they were finding silver, and they had little mines here and there. But when they started the open pit operations in the 70s, 80s, 90s, first Occidental, then NERCO, and then finally Kinross, they just concentrated on the one area with the two open pits, and they really didn't expand out from that. As I said, Kinross made a little bit of expansion towards the end when they started on the Georgine pit out west, but then they shut the whole operation down in 97, 98, and that was the end of that for development and mining at Candelaria. And it sat there up on Silver Standard shelf until we came along in 2016.
Yeah, and things are really looking up. One of the things that also impressed me, because we talk about infrastructure so much, you got like an amazing road that goes for I think 3 or 4 miles, and you've got electric, wires going right into the project that are live. That you're just basically a couple of steps away from getting this thing going again.
Yeah, you said it's in the middle of nowhere, and that's a good apt description. Essentially, even with respect to that, we're still only 2 miles off the main highway that connects Reno to Las Vegas, okay? And there's a little town called Mina, which is about 20-minute to half-hour drive away, and that's really the closest infrastructure that we have. That 2 miles of paved road comes right to the old processing site, just at the base of the open pit. As you mentioned, we've got electricity that is hooked up. We pay our monthly hydro bills, and we use that for processing our samples, etc. And not only that, we have something which is a must in Nevada if you want to talk about potential mining, is 2 water wells capable of 500 to 700 gallons per minute. And we test them every month and renew our licenses every year. So we've got water, we've got power, we've got paved road, we've got resources. The only thing we need is a bit of time to get up and see whether we can first get the heaps back in production and then maybe bring in downstream some of that open pit near surface, and if there is a high-grade underground zone, bring that into operation as well.
Yeah, it's rather remarkable, and it was just sitting there forgotten for nearly 20 years, and here it is. Good chance it's going to come back to life. And then you've got that other project, Cherokee, which just did airborne geophysical survey, which also is really exciting.
Yeah, now Cherokee is an interesting one. It's in eastern Nevada, just about 50 kilometers south of an old mining camp called Pioche. Now, what is it about Pioche? It's right near the Utah border, but they started out mining in the late 1800s, near surface, high grade, silver, gold, a little bit of copper veins, and then they went down and they found big, huge limestone replacement deposits with silver, gold, copper, lead, and zinc, and they mined up to the mid-1900s. Now it's a really pretty little ghost town, and you can see all the mine workings surrounding the town. Stay in the old haunted hotel if you want to. Very, very touristy. But the comparison is that at Cherokee, which is about 50 kilometers south, it had a little bit of production. And we did a little bit of research, and we found a reference in one of the old mining journals to the fact that they had recorded some production in the late 1800s in the thousands of grams per ton silver, very high grade. So we thought we'd better go look at it. We went and looked at it. We found a system of veins that ran for over 12 kilometers, 9 miles along strike, totally open. We staked it, and then we bought 5 patented claims and an artesian water well. Again, water, very important. We now have 100% ownership. Then we started sampling. And we started sampling first around the old Cherokee mine workings, and surface samples were giving us some pretty exciting values, up to 985 grams per ton silver with 4.3% copper. And then we went down to the south end of the system, several kilometers to the south, and we're sampling, and some of the veins are giving us up to almost 1,900 grams per ton silver and 2 grams gold. Then we did the geophysical survey just this year, and we also went back and we've done a lot of mapping and sampling, or outlining a lot of new veins. We haven't got the results back yet, but we anticipate we'll get some interesting results. But the geophysics that we did was a magnetometer survey, similar to what we did at Candelaria, but we outlined a great big red bullseye target in the southeast section that suggests there might be a big magmatic intrusive body under there that could be the source of the mineralization with these veins laying out. So we have all these new targets to test, and plus we're waiting on a lot of the samples that were collected over the last couple of months, waiting for those assays to come back. And again, we should start releasing some of that information in Q1 as soon as we get it all tabulated and get everything back from the analytical lab.
Great. And there's good infrastructure in the area as well.
Rhodes Lake, right to the old Cherokee mine, and so not quite as good as Candelaria. We don't have power there yet, but we do have water. So let's find something significant, and some of the high-grade values we're getting on surface certainly indicate that there could be something of very strong interest there to follow up on.
Yeah. So on a more personal note, I assume you don't have any regrets at coming out of retirement for this?
The only regrets I have is that I'm a bit too busy sometimes, but as my wife said, I would be bored silly sitting at home, so I think I'm okay with that.
All right. Well, that's good. So no regrets, and it's full steam ahead. We can look forward to a lot of news, a lot of potential catalytic events coming for 2020 then.
Yeah, and I think another thing to note there, Kerry, as well, is that even though the markets were a bit soft in 2019, we did have a little run-up there in July and August. But overall, things were pretty soft, difficult for junior resources companies to raise money, etc. We did 2 successful raises. One, we did a small one in January. We announced about $450,000 and oversubscribed over $600,000. And that was enough to get us started into things. But in July, we decided that we wanted to start drilling Candelaria. So we announced a $2.5 million financing. And within a couple of weeks, we closed at just shy of $5 million. And Eric Sprott came in as our largest shareholder at just around 11%.
Hey, and I should mention the website, company's website, silver1.com. The ticker on the venture, it's SVE. On the OTC, it's SLVRF. And on the FSE, it's BRK1. And that's the Frankfurt Exchange. So things are looking up. We're expecting a lot of news. That's why I'm thinking of buying more. It just sounds like a really great opportunity. It's just sitting there. If we get some cooperation from the precious metals markets, you're going to be off to the races.
Well, if you believe in debt causing future problems, U.S. is recording record debts right now. And if the markets come off a little bit, or the U.S. dollar comes off a little bit, I think you're going to see a significant move in gold and silver. And a lot of people are talking about that.
Yeah, a lot of people talking about it. Not to mention, we're getting into that Q4, Q1 time when precious metals prices on a seasonal basis go up.
Right.
We saw them go up during summer months where it's usually dead, and it usually hits its bottom for the year. So there's a good possibility that if it starts taking off in the next couple of weeks, we could see a major advance, and then this stock, as well as the whole sector, is going to be off to the races.
And you can see that just in July of this year when we announced our $2.5 million financing, we were trading at 15 cents. we ended up doing the financing of $5 million at 12.5 cents with a discount to market. And within 3 weeks, we were trading at just shy of 50 cents. So despite a little extra dilution to our company, there was certainly a lot of interest in silver and gold companies.
Oh, yeah, that's for sure. Well, hey, we wish you the best, Greg, and hoping to see this thing really come into its own in 2020. Any questions or comments, just email me. I'll forward them off to Greg, I promise. It's kl@kerrylutz.com. Greg, best wishes for the holiday season, and Happy New Year to you and yours.
Yeah, and same to you, and a very prosperous 2020 to everybody who's listening. So thank you very much.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.